Hello friends, I'm Jana Eubank, back with another layout created with the April 2025 kits from Hip Kit Club. This collection is called A Touch of Whimsy, and I love the color palette. These are the colors that I lean towards, so I'm super excited to be working on this layout today. Now I'm starting off my layout with the Thrive cardstock from the cardstock kit as my base, and then I'm looking for some patterns and colors to layer behind my photos here. Now I'm curious, are you someone who leans towards creating layouts with multiple photos? Do you like to highlight a single special photo? Or perhaps you're like me and you like to bounce back and forth between the two. Today, these photos that I am scrapbooking are of my daughter when she was moving into a new apartment. And it's always an exciting day, and I thought it'd be fun to capture some details of her apartment. Now, these photos are quite neutral. They have, the browns, the blacks, the whites, and so they work well with these colorful papers. However, in the very end, I do decide to switch them all to black and white just for a timeless classic feel. Now, when I'm working with multiple photos, what I usually do is mat them all on cardstock, especially because I love pattern paper. And I feel like the cardstock mats always help the photos to stand out from all of the pattern papers that I like to layer up. I then decide to how they want to arrange them on the page. And then from there, I start imagining layers that I want to anchor the photos with. So you can see that I'm doing a vertical column of that adorable floral paper to anchor those 4 photos. I also added a couple of branding strips there to the right just to add in some more pattern and color. And now I'm choosing another pattern paper strip to kind of sprout off of the left-hand side of these pattern paper columns to anchor my main photo, which is of my daughter opening her front door. I'm also going to add another branding strip above this piece of paper and then a little piece of scallop border that I fussy cut from one of the pattern papers. Now at first I put this darker orange branding strip, but eventually I'll switch that out for a lighter orange from the juicy cardstock to tie in with the light orange gingham on the right hand side of the page. The basic structure for my layout is now created. I have my photos matted, I have my background layers done, and now I'm ready to dig into my favorite part, which is to search through the embellishments and start thinking about how I want to build some embellishment clusters on this page. Now I know that I want to place my title below my main photo in that empty space there. I'm also going to add a bit of journaling. So these are the main components of my page, and now everything else is extra and decorative and fun. So I'm going to use those fun elements to kind of frame out the main components. I usually do that by creating a visual triangle of embellishment clusters or a flow of clusters going through the page. I'm going to do this today by adding these chipboard circles in an upward motion from the bottom left to the top right. I love these chipboard circles. They're so cute, so fun. You get several of them in the package, and a really fun thing to know about the larger chipboard circles is that they actually fit inside of the embroidery hoop die. So I'm also going to be incorporating that into my layout today. I have that main large decorative piece in the top right, and I'm going to place 2 smaller circles on the bottom left. One of them is just going to be decorative, and then I chose that green and pink one, and I'm planning on using that open space on that circle to add my journaling. One of the pattern papers in the kit looked like a patchwork quilt with all of these adorable applique flowers on it. Now the flowers printed on that paper coordinate with the applique flower die that also was released this month. So I used that die to cut out all the flowers, and I'm going to use them on embellishments for several of my projects. I decided to use 2 here along with that large circle on the right side of the page. And so I just went through the patterns there, selecting which colors I thought looked nice. Now, like I mentioned, I'm also going to use the embroidery hoop die around that large circle. I cut that out of the Happiness cardstock, which is the pink color, and then I'm cutting the pin from the Liberty color, which is that periwinkle purple type color. Now, once I had selected that pink embroidery hoop, I decided to switch out the pink flower for the orange flower just to add some variety. I'm happy with the placement of the chipboard circles, and so now I'm going to start looking through the embellishments again for some medium-sized pieces to start filling in the gaps. You can see that there's a little space to the right of that green and pink circle, and I chose to put the orange house die cut there. I thought that'd be perfect since it's a page about my daughter moving into an apartment. I'm also looking for ways to layer up these pieces. The larger chipboard circles are going to anchor the smaller pieces, but I also can layer other circles on top. So you can see I added one of those chipboard spool pieces on top of the quilted circle on the left. And I also placed one of those chipboard spools behind that orange happy smiles circle that's in the middle of the page. So I'm going to start adhering everything down. I like to use foam tape to lift things up over the level of the chipboard pieces and also to add a bit of shadowing and dimension. Now I'm going to place this little heart die cut above the puppy dog, and I wanted it to stand out from the photo, so I'm just going to mat it real quickly with some white cardstock. It's a quilted heart shape, so it has some geometric type edges to it and was very easy to cut out. So I'm going to pop that up above the puppy dog, and it just looks like a nice little cozy home scene there on the left side of that bottom photo. I've worked on some larger elements, some medium-sized elements, and now I'm ready to start sprinkling in some smaller elements. At this point, I'd like to add a different texture to my page. We have some flat layers with some paper. We have some different texture with the chipboard, but the puffy stickers are going to add a little squishy softness to this page. I love these little quilted stars, so I'm going to sprinkle them in here kind of like flowers around the page. I also added a puffy flower stem to the left edge of the house, a little puffy dot to accent that teal quilted heart above the puppy dog, and then a black and white puffy phrase below the house. I'll add one more quilted star to the top of the main photo. Next, I thought it would be fun to add some machine stitching to those applique flowers. So I took them over to my sewing machine and zigzag stitched across each of the petals. Now, when I did that, I also zigzag stitched through the flower centers. So I went back to the metal die set, recut the flower centers, and layered those up with some foam tape. I loved that layered look and wanted to continue with that. So taking a hint from that large chipboard circle where you see the little button accent, I found these cute little button die cuts in the embellishment kit and popped those up on the flower centers as well. I also added a teal one across the way on the top of that pink chipboard spool, and I like how that repeats the teal color of the button that is on the large chipboard circle. Next, I wanted to do something that would tie all of these embellishment clusters together, and I really loved the pink color of the embroidery hoop. I decided to die cut out some pink leaves for all the flowers, and then some additional leaves to add to the happy smiles circle in the center of the page, as well as the circles on the left side of the page, making all of them look like little flowers sprinkled around the layout. My initial plan was to place the title on that green and pink circle with the foam alphabet stickers, but I decided I wanted to use that space for my journaling. So instead, I'm going to switch out that puffy phrase sticker with this die cut to use as my titles that says "Life is Sweet." I will eventually also replace that puffy black and white phrase below the title, but that gives me a spot for my journaling there on that green and pink circle. I'm going to finish out these clusters by adding some little puffy dots to the centers of the quilted stars to make them look even more like flowers. And then just like I added the pink leaves throughout all the clusters, I'm also going to come back with more of those quilted stars and add some to each of the clusters to repeat that element visually around the page. So I'll add little puffy dots to the centers there, and I really love how this looks. Now I wanted to add one more different type of texture to this page, and so I thought I'd bring in a shiny element. And with that, I'm going to use my mini stapler to staple the tops and bottoms and left side of those branding strips, and I think that's the perfect finishing detail. I'll take this over to my computer and add some journaling with some vellum on that green and pink circle, and that finishes out the page. Again, my name is Jana Eubank for Hip Kit Club. These are the April 2025 kits with the A Touch of Whimsy collection. Super cute, super fun. I love it so much. I hope this process video helped you to feel inspired and that you get into your craft room this weekend and make something fun for yourself. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me. We'll see you next time.